Greetings, fencers. So I was sent a new sword to review. This is the Haft Arms feather from Slovakia. Now, an important stated goal with this feather is that they try to always have it in stock. So at the moment, they just make one sword, so you can order it now and have it shipped today. I've gotten to use mine for a few months now, and I got to use them and see lots of them at Turnhout 2025. It was one of the main swords getting used there. So for the feather itself, it looks nice. I like the Schilt style. The pommel and tang finish is really good. It's a spatulated tip that's the same on a lot of swords right now. I put plastic tips on them, so I can't show you exactly what it looks like, because thinner spatulated tips like this will go into gloves and get stuck or even pierce, but every tip in general has that risk. The total length is 135 centimeters or 53 inches, which is a common long feather length, but this sword actually has the blade a little longer than average and the handle a touch shorter, with the blade being 102 centimeters instead of 100 or 101 centimeters, which are more common. So this blade does give you that extra centimeter of reach. And the weight is a touch lighter than a lot of the older standard feathers at 1530 grams or 3.4 pounds. A lot of older standard feathers were 1550 to 1650 grams. But with the recent skewing of lighter swords becoming standard, this is sort of in the middle. A lot of lighter swords getting used are around 1400 grams. The blade itself has both a good amount of profile and distal taper, leading to a very agile tip. The point of balance is at 6 centimeters, which is pretty standard now as well. This lets you really control the sword, swing it faster, and stop it easier. Swords with a heavier point of balance often will hit harder and have more strain on your wrists and shoulders. And it has the longer 30 centimeter crossguard that competitive feathers have, great for catching a sword a little more often. It has a relatively thin handle that lets you switch to a thumb grip easily, and the cord wrap has been hit by a sword many times and hasn't broken yet. Now for the feeling. This blade was interesting to feel at the beginning. You pick it up and it's not a light feather, it has the full 1530 grams of weight. But the blade, and especially the tip, feel closer to air. It's very light and moves quite easily, so the last half of the sword is almost identical dimensions to very light sub 1400 grams feathers. But you will still have all this weight in your hand. So when cutting, you can swing the blade quite fast and hard and still not hurt your partner. You can stop the sword and change lines and feint really quick. The flex is also right in the middle at roughly 13 kilograms, bends easily, super safe, and because the last half is pretty light, it's not very floppy. It doesn't have more weight bouncing the blade. So this sword got used by many fencers at Turnhout and is definitely optimized for tournaments. You're thinking less about your partner's safety and more about how to hit faster. Now, what are some of the downsides? If you increase in some areas, it's going to reduce in others. Having the longer blade makes it even more awkward for grappling and close range. And it has all the same side effects of a light blade. It doesn't beat a heavy sword as easily, but when a heavier sword beats you, your blade moves very easily. So overall, you have a lot less bind presence and control over other people's blades, and it's harder to take the center line. Now normally, if it's a light sword, then you don't get tired as fast, but because the sword still has weight to it, it will get tiring moving hands around as you spar and fence longer. The tip will move fast, but your hands will move the same. And the sword won't finish its own cuts. It will stop dead. You have to force the sword through other people's parries, instead of the sword taking over and doing it for you. So that can also add fatigue when fencing longer periods. You spend more energy keeping the sword going. And high-performance swords like this don't last forever. It will get bent up over time and get sets in the blade easier. If you want to increase the lifespan, you want to thrust the same way so that the sword gets a slight bend one direction. That way you don't get S-curves. Mine already has a slight bend one way after 3 months. This mainly happens after a few thrusts into preparation, so all of someone's body weight is jumping onto the sword, but it hasn't gotten any bigger. So overall, I like the Haft Arms feather, and there are tournaments that I would bring this to as my standard feather. Getting to fence in Eastern Europe, I get to see that this is very much optimized for that, and especially being in stock is an enticing benefit. There are more places in North America where this isn't the sword I would use. There's more club sparring situations where you do bind work, and I'd prefer a different sword for that. And tournaments where the judging and meta is different, and you want a bit more blade weight and grappling options. However, this sword would not be a bad choice, and could be a standard sword that can do everything. And it is a sword I enjoy and look forward to using. Thanks for watching, keep studying, keep practicing.
Stop! At the grind point. Okay, ready.